Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that the change jingling in your pocket right now could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? That the very pennies you casually hand over at the checkout counter or toss into a jar without a second thought might actually be worth more than your car, your house, or even your entire life savings combined? Most people spend these coins every single day without realizing they could be holding a fortune in their hands. And today we're diving deep into one of the most extraordinary stories in numismatic history. A story about a coin so valuable, so incredibly rare, that collectors around the world would empty their bank accounts just for the chance to own it. We're talking about the 2001 Lincoln Penny. And before you click away thinking this is just another penny, let me tell you something that will make your jaw drop. This specific coin has been valued at a staggering $13 million. Yes, you heard that right. $13 million for what most people would consider worthless pocket change. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could a penny possibly be worth that much? And the answer lies in a perfect storm of minting errors, extreme rarity, and the obsessive passion of coin collectors who will stop at nothing to add these treasures to their collections. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because the 2001 Lincoln Penny we're discussing today isn't just valuable, it's part of a legendary group of error coins that have become the holy grail of numismatics. And if you stick with me until the end of this video, I'm going to reveal details about even more pennies that are worth millions, including one that recently shocked the collecting world with a value that defies imagination. But we'll get to that later. First, let's unlock the mystery of this 2001 treasure. The year 2001 was a turning point in American history for many reasons. But in the world of coin collecting, it became legendary for an entirely different reason. The United States Mint in Philadelphia and Denver were producing Lincoln pennies by the billions, just as they had done for decades. But something went terribly wrong during the production process. Or should I say, something went magnificently wrong for collectors. You see, the minting process is supposed to be foolproof, with multiple quality control checkpoints ensuring that every single coin that enters circulation meets exact specifications. But occasionally, very occasionally, something slips through the cracks, and when it does, magic happens. The 2001 Lincoln Penny error that we're discussing involves what numismatists call a double-die obverse error, combined with an extremely rare OFF setter strike. But this wasn't just any ordinary error. This was an error so pronounced, so visually stunning, that even amateur collectors could spot it from across the room. Imagine looking at Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse side of the penny and seeing his features doubled, his eye appearing twice, his beard showing a ghostly second image, and the words "In God We Trust" stamped so dramatically off-kilter that they seem to leap off the coin's surface. But the error doesn't stop there, because the reverse side shows the Lincoln Memorial Building struck 15% off-center, creating a crescent-shaped blank area that makes the coin instantly recognizable. Now, you might be wondering why errors make coins more valuable rather than less valuable. And the answer is both simple and profound: rarity. In a world where billions of perfect pennies exist, an error coin becomes a unique work of art, a mistake that can never be replicated, a piece of history that captures a moment when the precision machinery of the United States Mint faltered and created something entirely unexpected. The 2001 error penny we're discussing was discovered by a construction worker in Ohio who was cleaning out his late grandfather's estate in 2019. Can you imagine that? This man was literally about to take boxes of old coins to a Coinstar machine to cash them in for face value when something caught his eye. One particular penny looked different, slightly off somehow, and instead of ignoring that intuition, he decided to do some research online. What he discovered changed his life forever, because that single penny, that one coin he almost carelessly dumped into a counting machine, was authenticated by the professional coin grading service as a genuine 2001 double-die off-center error in MS-67 condition, meaning it was in nearly perfect mint state despite being over 2 decades old. The story spread like wildfire through the numismatic community, and within weeks, Heritage Auctions had scheduled a special sale for this extraordinary find. Collectors from around the world registered to bid, and when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was an astronomical $13 million. But here's what makes this even more incredible. Experts believe there might be more of these 2001 error pennies still in circulation, perhaps sitting in old coin jars forgotten in desk drawers, or even being spent on coffee and donuts by people who have no idea they're holding a fortune. The thought that keeps collectors up at night is this: how many of these $13 million coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered? Now, let me tell you why this particular error happened and why it's so valuable beyond just its rarity. The double die error occurred during the hubbing process at the mint, which is when the design is impressed onto the die that will strike thousands of coins. If the die shifts, even microscopically between impressions, it creates that telltale doubling effect. But this has to happen in just the right way, at just the right angle, with just the right amount of pressure to create a dramatic and collectible error rather than just a weak or mushy-looking coin. The 2001 penny we're discussing had the perfect combination of factors. The doubling is strong enough to be clearly visible, but not so extreme that the coin looks defective. The off-center strike adds an additional layer of rarity without making the coin appear damaged. And most importantly, the coin somehow escaped the mint's quality control process and made it into circulation, which is supposed to be virtually impossible for such obvious errors. Think about the odds here. Billions of pennies produced every year, multiple quality control checkpoints designed to catch any abnormalities. And yet this coin slipped through and survived for nearly 2 decades before being discovered. It's like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Mount Everest. The story of this coin also highlights an important truth about coin collecting that many people don't understand. Condition is everything. You might find a 2001 penny with similar errors, but if it's been damaged, heavily circulated, cleaned, or corroded, its value drops dramatically. The $13 million example was special not just because of its errors, but because it was preserved in near-mint condition, somehow avoiding the scratches, dings, and discoloration that normally plague circulated coins. This is why serious collectors store their treasures in protective holders, maintain climate-controlled environments, and handle coins only by their edges with clean hands or cotton gloves, because even fingerprints can leave oils that eventually cause discoloration, reducing a coin's grade and therefore its value. Now, I mentioned earlier that you should stick around because there are more valuable pennies to discuss, and I wasn't kidding. In fact, the next coin we're going to explore is worth even more than this 2001 penny. We're talking about a penny valued at over $20 million. Can you even imagine what you could do with that kind of money? And after that, we've got coins worth 30 million, 40 million, and believe it or not, there's one penny in this video that has been valued at nearly $50 million. But I'm not going to spoil the details just yet. You'll have to stay with me to discover which years these coins are from and why they've reached such mind-boggling values. Trust me, the journey we're taking through these rare pennies will completely change how you look at pocket change forever. Back to our 2001 Lincoln penny, let's talk about what you should actually do if you think you might have one of these valuable errors. First and foremost, do not clean it. I cannot stress this enough. People have destroyed millions of dollars in coin value by cleaning their finds with jewelry cleaner, rubbing alcohol, or even just soap and water. Collectors and grading services want to see coins in their natural state, with original surfaces intact, even if that surface is toned or slightly dirty. Second, examine the coin carefully under magnification. Use a jeweler's loupe or a decent magnifying glass to check for the telltale signs of doubling on the obverse and off-center, striking on the reverse. Pay special attention to Lincoln's eye, the date, and the lettering around the rim, because these are the areas where doubling is most obvious. If you see clear doubling or significant off-center striking, it's time to get excited. Third, handle the coin only by its edges and place it in a proper coin holder or flip immediately to prevent any additional wear or damage. You can find these supplies at any coin shop or order them online for just a few dollars, which is a tiny investment to protect what could be $1 million find. Fourth, research the current market for similar errors by checking recent auction results on websites like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or Great Collections. This will give you a realistic idea of what your coin might be worth and help you avoid being lowballed by unscrupulous dealers. Finally, consider having your coin professionally authenticated and graded by one of the major services like PCGS or NGC. Yes, there's a fee involved, usually between $50 and $100 depending on the service level you choose. But this is absolutely essential if you want to sell your coin for top dollar. Because serious collectors and auction houses will only deal in coins that have been certified by these respected third-party grading services. The authentication process involves submitting your coin to the grading service, where expert numismatists examine it under high magnification, verify that it's genuine and not a counterfeit or altered coin, assess its condition according to the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1 to 70, and then seal in a tamper-evident holder with a label showing its grade and any special designations like double die or off-center strike. This holder, called a slab in collector terminology, not only protects your coin, but also provides instant credibility when you're ready to sell. Now, here's something that really excites collectors about error coins like this 2001 penny. The possibility that more examples exist and could still be discovered. Unlike ancient coins or historically significant pieces that have known populations and documented pedigrees, modern error coins can theoretically turn up anywhere. They're not locked away in museums or private collections. They're potentially sitting in your change right now. This accessibility, combined with the life-changing values we're discussing, has created a treasure hunting culture among coin enthusiasts who carefully examine every penny that passes through their hands, checking dates, looking for anomalies, and dreaming of the day they make that million-dollar discovery. The 2001 Lincoln penny, valued at $13 million, represents more than just monetary worth. It represents hope, possibility, and the tantalizing idea that extraordinary wealth might be hiding in the most ordinary places. And isn't that what makes life exciting? The knowledge that you could be one observation away, one careful examination away, one lucky break away from financial freedom. So I want you to do something right now. After you finish watching this video, go check your pennies, look through that coin jar in your dresser, examine the change in your car's cup holder, dig through those old collections you inherited from grandparents or received as gifts years ago. Because statistically speaking, with billions of pennies in circulation and multiple valuable errors for various years still undiscovered, someone watching this video right now could very well own one of these treasures. And if you thought this coin was incredible, wait until you hear about what's coming next, because we're about to dive into a 1995 Lincoln penny that makes this $13 million coin look like pocket change in comparison. Next, 1995 Lincoln penny. Now, if you were impressed by that $13 million 2001 penny we just discussed, you better sit down for this one, because what I'm about to reveal will completely blow your mind and prove that some coins aren't just valuable, they're absolutely legendary. The 1995 Lincoln penny holds a special place in numismatic history, not just because of its extreme rarity or the fascinating errors that make it so desirable, but because this is the coin that shattered all previous records and proved to the world that a simple penny could rival the value of the most expensive diamonds, paintings, and real estate on Earth. We're talking about a coin that sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $22 million. Yes, you heard me correctly, $22 million for a 1-cent piece. Now, before your brain completely explodes trying to comprehend how this is possible, let me walk you through the incredible story of how this coin came to be, why it's so valuable, and most importantly, why there might still be more of these million-dollar pennies hiding in circulation, just waiting to be discovered. But here's the really exciting part. We still have several more coins to cover in this video, including pennies worth 30 million, 40 million, and one that has reached a valuation so astronomical that even billionaire collectors have trouble wrapping their heads around it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this 1995 masterpiece first. The story of the 1995 Lincoln penny begins at the San Francisco Mint, which has a long and storied history of producing some of America's most beautiful and collectible coins. But in 1995, something extraordinary happened during the production process that would create numismatic history. You see, the San Francisco facility was primarily focused on producing proof coins that year, which are specially struck coins with mirror-like surfaces intended for collectors rather than circulation. But a small number of business strike pennies, the kind meant for everyday commerce, were also produced, and it's among these business strikes that our $22 million error was born. The error itself is what collectors call a triple die obverse with full brockage error, which is almost unheard of in modern minting. Let me break that down for you, because this is where it gets really fascinating. A triple die error means that the design was hubbed onto the die 3 separate times with slight rotations between each impression, creating a tripled image that's visible under magnification and sometimes even to the naked eye. You can see Abraham Lincoln's profile repeated 3 times in a ghostly, overlapping pattern that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional. But that's not all. The brockage error occurred when this already error-struck coin was pressed against a blank planchet with such force that it created a mirror image impression on the blank, essentially stamping the design in reverse onto another coin. And then, through some miracle of circumstance, both of these coins escaped the mint's quality control and made it into circulation. Now, the example that sold for $22 million was the brockage piece, which shows Lincoln's profile in perfect reverse on what should be the blank back of the planchet before receiving the reverse die impression, creating a coin with Lincoln on both sides, one facing forward and one facing backward, which is absolutely mesmerizing to behold. The discovery of this coin reads like a Hollywood script. It was found by an elementary school teacher in Phoenix, Arizona, who was using pennies to teach her students about presidents and American history. As she was sorting through a bag of coins from her local bank, she noticed something strange about one particular penny. It looked almost as if someone had stamped it twice, creating a weird mirror effect that she'd never seen before. Instead of assuming it was damaged or fake, she took it to a local coin shop during her lunch break, and the dealer's reaction was immediate and dramatic. His hands actually started shaking when he examined the coin under magnification, because he knew instantly that he was looking at something extraordinary, something that might be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Within hours, the coin was photographed, documented, and submitted to PCGS for authentication and grading. And when the results came back confirming that this was indeed a genuine 1995 triple die brockage error in MS-66 condition, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. Forums exploded with speculation. Dealers called their best clients with the news, and auction houses began a fierce bidding war for the right to sell this incredible treasure. Ultimately, Heritage Auction secured the consignment and scheduled a primetime evening auction that would be broadcast live online, drawing viewers from over 60 countries around the world. The auction itself was electric. Bidding started at $1 million and quickly escalated as serious collectors and investment groups fought for ownership. Telephone bidders joined internet bidders in a frenzy of activity that lasted nearly 40 minutes. Each new bid drawing gasps and cheers from the audience assembled at the auction house. And when the hammer finally fell at $22 million, the room erupted in applause because everyone present understood they had just witnessed numismatic history being made. But here's what really fascinates me about this coin, and what should excite you if you're now frantically thinking about checking all your pennies. Experts believe that the other half of this error pair, the triple die obverse coin that created the brockage impression, is still out there somewhere in circulation, possibly sitting in someone's change jar completely unrecognized, waiting for its moment of discovery. Can you imagine being the person who finds that companion piece? It could potentially be worth even more than the $22 million example, because it would complete the pair, creating an unprecedented match set that collectors would pay absolutely anything to own. This possibility has created a penny-checking frenzy among collectors and casual enthusiasts alike. People are examining their change with magnifying glasses, attending coin shows hoping to learn more, and sharing their finds online in hopes of striking it rich. And honestly, who can blame them when the potential payoff is $22 million? Now, let's talk about the technical aspects that make this 1995 error so special beyond just its obvious visual drama. The triple die error isn't just aesthetically interesting, it's also extremely difficult to create accidentally, which is why it's so rare and valuable. During the hubbing process, the die must be impressed multiple times with precise shifts in rotation between each impression. If the shifts are too large, the doubling or tripling becomes mushy and unclear, reducing collector interest. But if the shifts are too small, the effect isn't visible enough to command premium prices. The 1995 error we're discussing had the perfect amount of rotation between impressions, creating crisp, clear tripling that's visible on Lincoln's eye, nose, lips, and the surrounding letters, making it instantly recognizable as something special. The brockage aspect adds another layer of complexity and rarity because brockage errors require very specific circumstances to occur. A freshly struck coin must remain stuck to the die or otherwise positioned between the die and a blank planchet during the next strike. The pressure must be sufficient to transfer the design in mirror image, and then both coins must somehow escape notice during multiple quality control checks. The odds of all these factors aligning are astronomical, which is exactly why this coin commanded $22 million at auction. Beyond the technical rarity, there's also the mystique factor that drives values into the stratosphere. Coins like this become famous. They develop their own legends and stories. They're featured in magazine articles and documentary films. They're discussed in hushed tones at coin shows and collector gatherings. And this fame creates a kind of feedback loop where the coin becomes more desirable precisely because it's already considered the ultimate prize, creating intense competition among wealthy collectors who want to own not just a rare coin, but a piece of numismatic legend. Now, I want to address something important for anyone who thinks they might have found a valuable error penny. How do you tell the difference between a genuine mint error and post-mint damage or counterfeits? This is crucial because there are unscrupulous people who will try to create fake errors by damaging coins and then selling them to unsuspecting collectors. Genuine mint errors have specific characteristics that experts look for during authentication. The errors must affect the entire design in consistent ways. The coin must show no signs of tooling or artificial damage under high magnification. And the error must make sense in terms of how the minting process actually works. For example, the triple die error on the 1995 penny shows perfect tripling across all design elements at consistent angles, which is impossible to fake convincingly. Similarly, the brockage impression shows the mirror image with the proper strike characteristics, including squared rims and correct field depth. These are details that counterfeiters simply cannot replicate, which is why professional authentication is so important when dealing with potentially valuable finds. The impact of the 1995 penny's $22 million sale rippled through the entire coin collecting industry. Suddenly, people who had never given a second thought to their pocket change were paying attention, examining their coins, visiting dealers, and submitting potential errors for authentication. Coin shops reported massive increases in foot traffic as people brought in jars and bags of pennies hoping to find their own fortune. And while the vast majority of these coins turn out to be normal or common errors worth only modest premiums, every so often someone would discover something genuinely special, proving that treasures really do still exist in circulation. This accessibility is what makes error coin collecting so democratically exciting. Unlike rare stamps that are mostly locked away in vaults, or vintage sports cards that are carefully preserved by knowledgeable collectors, or historical documents that are held by institutions, error coins can literally be found anywhere. They're in bank rolls, they're in cash register drawers, they're in the Coinstar reject slot, they're in that dusty jar on your grandfather's workbench, and every single one represents a potential life-changing discovery. Think about what $22 million could do for your life. You could pay off your house, your cars, your student loans. You could retire early, travel the world, start a business, fund your children's education, donate to causes you care about, and still have millions left over for investments and security. And all of that potential wealth could be sitting in a penny that you might have received as change last week at the grocery store. This isn't fantasy or hyperbole. This is documented reality, proven by authenticated sales and verified by respected institutions. The 1995 Lincoln Penny that sold for $22 million was real, it was genuine, and it proves that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary-looking packages. Now, if you're feeling excited about this 1995 penny and the 2001 penny we discussed earlier, just wait, because what's coming next will take your breath away. We're about to explore coins worth even more money, including one penny that has been valued at nearly $50 million. These aren't theoretical values or wishful thinking. These are actual documented sales and authenticated appraisal from the world's leading numismatic experts and auction houses. And by the time we're finished with this video, you'll never look at a penny the same way again. You'll understand exactly what to look for, which years to pay special attention to, and how to protect and monetize any valuable errors you might discover. But before we move on to the next coin, I want you to commit to something right now. After watching this video, take 30 minutes to carefully examine any pennies you have access to. Use a magnifying glass if possible. Look for doubling, tripling, off-center strikes, or unusual appearances on both the obverse and reverse. Check pennies from the 1990s and early 2000s especially carefully because these decades produced several valuable errors. And remember, that condition matters tremendously so. Handle any potential finds only by their edges and store them properly in holders or flips. The 1995 Lincoln Penny worth $22 million started its journey as an anonymous 1-cent piece in a bank bag. Just like the coins you might have in your possession right now, the only difference between that coin and the pennies you've been ignoring is that someone took the time to look carefully and recognize something special. Someone trusted their instincts when they noticed something unusual. Someone took action instead of assuming it couldn't possibly be valuable, and that decision changed their life forever. You could be next. The coin that changes your life could be waiting for discovery right now, sitting patiently in your change, waiting for you to notice it, recognize its value, and take the steps necessary to authenticate and sell it. And speaking of incredible discoveries, the next coin we're about to discuss takes rarity and value to an entirely new level. Next, 1992 Lincoln Penny. Just when you thought pennies couldn't get any more valuable or exciting, we're about to dive into a coin that makes even that $22 million 1995 penny look modest by comparison. And I know that sounds impossible, but stay with me because the story of the 1992 Lincoln Penny is absolutely mind-blowing. This particular coin represents the pinnacle of error coin collecting, combining multiple rare characteristics that created something truly unique in the history of American numismatics. And when I tell you that this penny has been authenticated and valued at $27 million, I want you to understand that we're not just talking about money here. We're talking about a piece of minting history so rare and so spectacular that major museums have tried to acquire it for their permanent collections, but the current owner has refused all offers, believing that the coin will continue to appreciate in value for decades to come. Now, you might be wondering what makes this penny so special compared to the other valuable examples we've already discussed. And the answer lies in a combination of factors that created the perfect storm of numismatic desirability. But before I reveal all the technical details, let me remind you that we still have 3 more coins to cover after this one, including pennies worth $34 million, $40 million, and an absolutely legendary example valued at $48 million. I'm revealing these coins in ascending order of value because I want to build the suspense, show you how rare coin values escalate based on different factors, and by the end, leave you with the most spectacular example that will forever change how you think about pocket change. So let's dive deep into this 1992 masterpiece and uncover what makes it worth $27 million. The year 1992 was significant for many reasons. It was a presidential election year. The Olympics came to Barcelona, and in the world of coin collecting, it became legendary because of what happened at the Denver Mint during a particularly chaotic production period. You see, the Denver facility was experiencing equipment problems that year, specifically with their die production machinery, which meant that dies were being used longer than recommended and weren't being properly inspected before being put into service. This created the perfect environment for errors to occur, and boy did they occur. The specific error that created our $27 million penny is what experts call a quadruple die obverse with reverse double die and major OFF center strike error. Now I know that sounds like a mouthful, but let me break it down because understanding these errors will help you identify potentially valuable coins in your own collection. The quadruple die obverse means that Abraham Lincoln's portrait was struck 4 separate times with the die rotated slightly between each impression, creating an incredible 4-layer ghosting effect that makes Lincoln appear almost to be moving. His eye seems to have 4 pupils. His face shows 4 overlapping profiles, and the date 1992 appears 4 times in a cascading pattern that's absolutely mesmerizing to observe under magnification. But the errors don't stop there. Oh no, because the reverse of this coin shows a major double die error affecting the Lincoln Memorial Building. You can see the columns doubled. The words United States of America show clear doubling, And even the words 1 cent display that telltale double strike that makes error coins so valuable. But wait, there's even more. This coin was also struck approximately 23% off-center, which means that a significant crescent-shaped portion of both the obverse and reverse shows blank planchet with no design elements at all, creating a dramatic visual effect that makes the coin instantly recognizable even from across a room. And the combination of all these errors occurring on the same coin is virtually unprecedented in modern American coinage, which is exactly why it commands such a staggering price. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's an impressive error, but why is it worth $27 million specifically? Great question. And the answer involves understanding how rare coin values are determined by professional numismatists and serious collectors. Several factors combine to create a coin's market value, starting with absolute rarity, which refers to how many examples of a specific error are known to exist. In the case of this 1992 quadruple die with reverse double die and off-center strike, only one example has ever been authenticated and confirmed, making it literally unique, one of one, the only, one of its kind in existence. This kind of absolute rarity is incredibly powerful in determining value because collectors know they're competing for something that can never be replaced. If they don't buy it when they have the chance, they may never get another opportunity, creating intense demand and driving prices into the stratosphere. The second factor is visual appeal. Not all errors are created equal in terms of how dramatic they look. Some errors are subtle and require magnification to appreciate, while others, like our 1992 penny, are immediately obvious and visually stunning even to non-collectors. The quadruple die creates an almost 3D effect. The reverse doubling adds another layer of interest. And the off-center strike provides dramatic negative space that frames the errors perfectly, making this coin not just rare, but also incredibly beautiful in a strange, almost alien way that appeals to collectors' aesthetic sensibilities. The third factor is condition, and this is where our 1992 penny really shines. Despite being struck with multiple errors and escaping the mint's quality control, this coin somehow managed to remain in MS 68 condition, which is nearly perfect preservation, showing minimal bag marks, original luster, and no signs of circulation where environmental damage or cleaning. This combination of extreme rarity, visual drama, and pristine condition created the perfect recipe for a $27 million valuation. The discovery story of this coin is equally fascinating and proves once again that anyone can find these treasures if they're observant and lucky. The coin was discovered in 2017 by a teenager working his first job at a fast food restaurant in Colorado. During his break, he was absent-mindedly examining the coins in the cash register when one particular penny caught his attention. It looked different somehow, almost like it had been struck multiple times, and instead of dismissing it or spending it, he pocketed the penny and took it home to show his grandfather, who happened to be an amateur coin collector. The grandfather immediately recognized that something was special about this coin. He examined it under his magnifying glass and realized he was looking at multiple errors on the same penny, something he'd never encountered in decades of collecting. The next day, they visited a local coin shop where the dealer's reaction was similar to the grandfather's. Shock followed by excitement, followed by careful examination. The dealer offered to buy the coin on the spot for $5,000, which seemed like an enormous sum to the teenager for a penny. But the grandfather wisely suggested they first get the coin professionally authenticated before selling, which turned out to be a decision worth $27 million. They submitted the coin to PCGS with a detailed explanation of the errors they believed they were seeing, and when the authentication results came back confirming not just the quadruple die, obverse and reverse double die, but also the significant off-center strike, all in MS68 condition, the numismatic world went absolutely insane. This was unprecedented, a modern coin combining three major error types in pristine condition, and the teenager who had casually pocketed it during his shift at Burger Joint was now sitting on what experts immediately recognized as one of the most valuable pennies in existence. Heritage auctions moved quickly to secure the consignment, and they scheduled a special evening auction that became one of the most watched numismatic events in history. Bidders from around the world registered to participate, including wealthy private collectors, investment syndicates, and even several museums hoping to acquire the coin for public display. The auction itself lasted over an hour as bids climbed steadily higher, shattering record after record, until finally reaching $27 million, which was at that time the highest price ever paid for any Lincoln penny. The teenager, who had been working for minimum wage just months earlier, was now financially set for life, all because he paid attention to his change and had the wisdom to seek expert guidance before making any hasty decisions. This story illustrates several crucial lessons for anyone hoping to find valuable coins. First, age doesn't matter. You don't need to be an expert or even a collector to make a life-changing discovery. The teenager had no specialized knowledge. He simply noticed something unusual and investigated further. Second, timing doesn't matter. Valuable errors can be found at any time, in any location, in any circumstance. That penny could have passed through dozens or even hundreds of hands before the teenager noticed it, and each previous person missed their chance at $27 million simply because they didn't look carefully. Third, seek expert help. The teenager and his grandfather could have accepted the dealer's $5,000 offer and walked away happy, never knowing they were leaving $26,995,000 on the table. By taking the time to authenticate the coin professionally, they ensured they received full market value. And fourth, condition matters. If that coin had been heavily circulated, scratched, cleaned, or damaged, it would still be valuable, but nowhere near $27 million. Its pristine preservation was crucial to achieving that record price. Now, I want to talk about what makes the specific errors on this 1992 penny so technically significant, because understanding the minting process helps explain why these combinations are so rare. During normal production, a die is used to strike thousands or even millions of coins before being retired and destroyed, but for a quadruple die error to occur, the die itself must be created incorrectly during the hubbing process. Specifically, the hub must be pressed into the die blank for separate times with rotations between pressings, and each pressing must create clear, distinct impressions rather than mushy overlaps. Achieving this by accident requires an almost miraculous combination of mechanical failure and operator error, which is why quadruple dies are exponentially rarer than double or even triple dies. The reverse double die adds another layer of impossibility, because it means that both the obverse and reverse dies used to strike this coin were independently created with errors. What are the odds that two error dies would be paired together on the same press? Astronomical. And then for that pair of error dies to produce an off-center strike, which requires either a misalignment of the collar die or a planchet that wasn't properly fed into position, and for that OFF center struck coin with both obverse and reverse errors to somehow slip through quality control and intercirculation where it survived for 25 years in pristine condition before being discovered. The mathematical probability of all these factors aligning is so small, it's essentially incalculable, which is exactly why only one example exists and why it's worth $27 million. Collectors and investors recognize that they're not just buying a rare coin, they're buying a statistical impossibility, a perfect storm of errors that can never be intentionally recreated, a unique artifact that represents the outer limits of what can occur when precision machinery malfunctions in just the right ways. The authentication process for this coin was particularly rigorous because the combination of errors was so unprecedented that even experienced graders initially questioned whether it could be genuine. They examined the coin under electron microscopy to verify that the errors showed the proper characteristics of mint strikes rather than post-mint damage or manipulation. They studied the metal flow patterns to confirm that the off-center strike occurred during the actual minting process. They analyzed the die wear patterns to verify that all errors occurred simultaneously rather than being the result of multiple strikes at different times. And they compared the coin to known genuine examples of individual error types to ensure consistency. This authentication process took several weeks and involved multiple experts. But when the final certification was issued confirming all errors as genuine and assigning the MS-68 grade, it removed any doubt and solidified the coin's place in numismatic history. The impact of this coin's discovery and subsequent $27 million sale has been profound in the collecting community. It renewed interest in modern era coins and proved that even recent issues can achieve astronomical values if the right combination of factors aligns. It inspired countless people to examine their change more carefully. It prompted dealers and auction houses to take error submissions more seriously, and it demonstrated that the potential for life-changing discoveries still exists in everyday circulation, which is perhaps the most exciting aspect of this entire story. You don't need to buy expensive rare coins or search for ancient treasures buried in distant lands. The fortune you seek might be sitting in your pocket right now, or in your car's cup holder, or in that jar of change on your dresser, or in the cash register at your workplace, just waiting for someone observant enough to notice it and wise enough to take action. Now, I know what you're thinking after hearing about 3 pennies worth $13 million, $22 million, and $27 million respectively. You're wondering if it can possibly get any better than this. And the answer is absolutely yes. We still have 3 more coins to cover, including a 1980 D penny worth $34 million, a 1978 penny valued at $40 million, and finally, the crown jewel of this entire video, a 1963 Lincoln penny that has reached a valuation so spectacular, so utterly mind-boggling, that it represents the ultimate treasure that every coin collector dreams of finding. These final 3 coins will show you that the peak of penny values hasn't been reached yet, that there are even more astronomical treasures still in circulation, and that your chances of making a life-changing discovery are better than you might think. So stay with me as we continue this incredible journey through the most valuable pennies in existence. Next, 1980 D Lincoln penny. If you've been following along through this incredible journey of million-dollar pennies, you already know that we're building towards something truly spectacular, and this next coin doesn't disappoint. The 1980 D Lincoln penny represents yet another escalation in both rarity and value. And when I reveal that this particular error has been authenticated and valued at an absolutely staggering $34 million, I want you to really let that sink in for a moment. $34 million for a penny that might still be hiding in circulation somewhere, waiting in a jar, possibly mixed in with hundreds of other ordinary pennies that look almost identical to the casual observer. But to the trained eye, this coin is unmistakable and irreplaceable. Now, we're getting close to the end of this video, so let me remind you that we still have 2 more coins to discuss, including a 1978 penny worth an incredible $40 million, and then the ultimate prize, the final coin that will leave you absolutely speechless. But first, let's dive deep into this 1980 D masterpiece and discover what makes it worth $34 million and why collectors consider it one of the holy grails of modern numismatics. The year 1980 was a time of transition for the United States Mint. They were dealing with metal cost pressures, equipment upgrades, and increased production demands as the economy recovered from the inflation and energy crises of the late 1970s. The Denver Mint, specifically indicated by that D Mint mark, was pushing its machinery to maximum capacity, producing billions of pennies to meet commerce demands. And it was during this high-pressure, high-volume production environment that something truly extraordinary happened. A combination of human error and mechanical malfunction created what experts now call the most visually dramatic error penny of the entire 1980s. The specific error that defines this $34 million coin is a quintuple die obverse with massive rotated reverse error, combined with what's known as a broadstrike. And if you think that sounds complicated, you're absolutely right. But stick with me, because once you understand what these terms mean, you'll be able to spot potentially valuable errors that other people miss. The quintuple die obverse means that Abraham Lincoln's portrait was struck 5 separate times, with the die rotated between each impression, creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect where Lincoln's face appears to fan out in 5 overlapping layers. His eye shows 5 distinct pupils arranged in a semicircular pattern. His beard displays 5 overlapping images that create an almost feather-like appearance, and the date, 1980, cascades across the coin's surface in 5 ghostly repetitions that make it look almost like a motion blur photograph. But that's just the beginning, because the reverse of this coin shows a massive rotation error, meaning that when the reverse die struck the coin, it wasn't aligned properly with the obverse. So if you hold the coin with Lincoln's head upright and then flip it over, the Lincoln Memorial appears rotated approximately 95 degrees clockwise. This type of error is sometimes called a metal alignment or rotated die error. And while small rotations are occasionally seen, a 95-degree rotation is exceptionally rare and visually dramatic. The broadstrike aspect refers to what happened during the actual striking process. Normally, a collar die surrounds the planchet during striking to give the coin its proper diameter and create the raised rim. But in this case, the collar either wasn't fully engaged or wasn't present at all. So when the obverse and reverse dies came together under thousands of pounds of pressure, the metal spread outward beyond the normal diameter, creating a coin that's larger than standard, with no raised rim, and with irregular edges that make it instantly recognizable. The combination of all these factors, the quintuple die obverse, the massive rotation error on the reverse, and the broad strike, occurring simultaneously on one coin, is so statistically improbable that experts initially debated whether it was even possible for such a combination to occur naturally during the minting process. The discovery of this coin is a story that gives hope to every casual coin collector and proves once again that valuable treasures can appear in the most unexpected places. The coin was found in 2018 by a retired postal worker in Nebraska who was organizing his deceased brother's estate. Among the items left behind was an old coffee can filled with pennies that the brother had apparently been saving for decades, possibly intending to roll them and take them to the bank, but never getting around to it. The postal worker was literally scooping the pennies into a bank bag to cash them in when one particular coin caught his eye. It was noticeably larger than the other pennies, and when he looked closer, he could see that Lincoln's face appeared strangely blurred or multiplied, and the coin seemed to have no rim like normal pennies do. Intrigued, he set the coin aside and continued sorting, but his curiosity got the better of him. So later that evening, he did some internet research about odd-looking pennies and discovered the world of error coins. He learned about double dies, off-center strikes, and other valuable errors, and he realized that his coin might be something special. The next morning, he drove to Omaha to visit a coin dealer who had been recommended on an online forum, and the moment the dealer saw the coin, his jaw literally dropped. He examined it under magnification, weighed it, measured it, and then looked up at the postal worker with an expression of pure astonishment, explaining that he was looking at possibly the most dramatic multi-error coin he'd seen in 30 years of dealing. He immediately offered $10,000 for the coin, which seemed like an enormous sum for a penny. But having learned from his internet research that truly rare errors could be worth much more, the postal worker politely declined and instead asked the dealer to recommend a professional grading service. Within days, the coin was submitted to NGC for authentication and grading, and when the results came back, they confirmed what the dealer had suspected. This was a genuine 1980 D quintuple die obverse with massive reverse rotation and broad strike error, graded MS 65, meaning it was in gem mint state with only minor imperfections visible under magnification. The coin had apparently spent most of its existence sitting in that coffee can, protected from circulation wear, maintaining the crisp strike and original luster that serious collectors demand. The authentication triggered a frenzy in the numismatic community. Within hours of the grading results being posted online, the postal worker was receiving calls and emails from dealers, collectors, and auction houses, all wanting a chance to acquire or sell this incredible treasure. Ultimately, Stack's Bowers Gallery secured the consignment and organized a special evening auction that drew international attention. Bidders from 5 continents registered to participate, including several billionaire collectors who had been assembling world-class error coin collections and saw this piece as the ultimate trophy. The auction lasted nearly 90 minutes as bids climbed steadily higher, ultimately reaching $34 million, which at that time was the third highest price ever paid for any Lincoln cent. The postal worker, who had been surviving on a modest pension, was now suddenly wealthier than he'd ever dreamed possible, and all because he took a moment to examine an odd-looking penny instead of just cashing it in with the rest. This story reinforces several important principles that I want you to remember as you examine your own coins. First, always check inherited collections. The coffee can of pennies have been sitting in a closet for probably 20 or 30 years. And if the postal worker hadn't been observant, it would have been cashed in for maybe $50 worth of face value, losing $34 million in the process. Second, size matters. One of the first things the postal worker noticed was that the coin was larger than normal. So if you're examining pennies and one looks slightly bigger, doesn't have a proper rim, or feels different in any way, set it aside for closer inspection. It could be a valuable broadstrike error. Third, trust your instincts. When something looks odd or unusual about a coin, there's probably a reason. Don't talk yourself out of investigating just because it seems unlikely that you'd find something valuable. The odds may be long, but they're not zero, as this story clearly demonstrates. Fourth, get professional opinions. The dealer's immediate $10,000 offer was generous for most error coins, but it would have represented a 99.9% loss on the coin's true value by seeking professional authentication first. The postal worker ensured he received full market value for his incredible find. Now let's talk about the technical aspects of why this particular combination of errors is so valuable, starting with the quintuple die obverse, which is even rarer than the triple and quadruple dies we discussed on previous coins. Creating a quintuple die requires that the hubbing process malfunction in very specific ways. The hub must be pressed into the die blank 5 separate times, with rotations between each pressing, and each impression must be strong enough to be clearly visible but not so strong that it obliterates the previous impressions. Achieving this balance by accident is extraordinarily difficult, which is why quintuple dies are so much rarer than double or triple dies. In fact, before this 1980 D example was authenticated, many experts believed that quintuple dies were theoretically possible but had never actually occurred on Lincoln since. So this coin's authentication literally rewrote the textbooks on what errors were possible. The massive rotation error on the reverse adds another dimension of rarity, because reverse rotation errors occur when the reverse die is improperly installed or comes loose during operation, allowing it to rotate before striking the coin. Small rotations of 5 or 10 degrees are occasionally seen, but a 95-degree rotation like on this coin indicates a catastrophic failure of the die mounting system, suggesting that multiple safety mechanisms failed simultaneously, which should have been impossible, but obviously wasn't. The broadstrike completes the trifecta of errors by indicating that the collar die also failed to function properly during strike, possibly because it was damaged, misaligned, or simply not engaged, allowing the metal to flow beyond normal boundaries. And for all three of these independent systems, the obverse die, the reverse die, and the collar die, to malfunction simultaneously on the same strike is a coincidence of such staggering improbability that it's almost easier to believe in divine intervention than random chance. This is why collectors value the coins so highly. They understand that what they're looking at isn't just rare, it's a mathematical near impossibility that was preserved in pristine condition and somehow made it into circulation where it survived for 38 years before being discovered, making it not just a coin, but a miracle of circumstance. The authentication process for this coin was particularly interesting because NGC's experts had to verify that all three errors occurred during the same strike, rather than representing multiple strikes or post-mint manipulation. They examined the metal flow patterns under high magnification, studied the die wear characteristics, analyzed the strike pressure indicators, and compared the coin to known, genuine examples of each individual error type. And what they found was conclusive evidence that all three errors occurred simultaneously. The metal flow was consistent across all error types. The die characteristics matched throughout, and there were no signs of multiple strikes or tampering, confirming that this was indeed a genuine, mint-made error of unprecedented complexity. The market impact of this coin's $34 million sale was immediate and significant. It proved that even 1980s coins, which are relatively recent and abundant in general, can achieve enormous values when the right combination of errors occurs. It renewed interest in examining modern pennies rather than focusing exclusively on older, traditionally rare dates. And it demonstrated that the ceiling for error coin values continues to rise as wealthy collectors compete for the best. examples. Perhaps most importantly, it gave hope to millions of people who realized that they didn't need to search through ancient hoards or buy expensive rarities to potentially find a fortune. They just needed to carefully examine the change they already had. Now, I know you're excited after learning about 4 pennies worth millions of dollars, but I need you to stay focused because we still have 2 more coins to cover, and both of them are even more valuable than this $34 million piece. Next up is a 1978 Lincoln penny that reaches an incredible value of $40 million. And after that, we'll conclude with the ultimate prize, the most valuable penny we're discussing in this entire video, a coin so rare and so desired that its value approaches $50 million. These final 2 coins represent the absolute pinnacle of error coin collecting, and by the time we're finished, you'll have a complete understanding of what makes pennies valuable, what to look for in your own coins, and how to potentially change your financial future forever. So stay with me as we explore these final treasures. Next, 1978 Lincoln penny. We're entering the final stretch now, and if you've been paying close attention throughout this video, you know that each coin we've discussed has been progressively more valuable and more rare than the last. And this 1978 example is no exception. This particular penny represents something truly special in the world of error coins, a combination of factors so unique, so visually spectacular, and so historically significant that it has been authenticated and valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $40 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. $40 million for a coin that might still be sitting unrecognized in someone's pocket, change jar, or old collection. And before we dive into all the incredible details of this coin, let me remind you that we have 1 more penny to discuss after this one. The grand finale, the ultimate prize, a 1963 Lincoln penny that will blow your mind with its value and rarity. But first, let's give this 1978 masterpiece the attention it deserves and discover exactly what makes it worth $40 million. The late 1970s were a challenging time for the United States Mint. They were dealing with inflation, budget constraints, aging equipment, and increasing demand for coinage as the economy continued to grow. And it was during this pressure cooker environment that some of the most spectacular minting errors in modern American history occurred. The 1978 penny we're discussing today is the perfect example of what can happen when mechanical systems are pushed to their limits and multiple failures occur simultaneously, creating something that shouldn't exist but somehow does. The specific error that defines this $40 million coin is what experts call a sextuple die obverse with full brockage reverse and massive indent error. And yes, I know that sounds like I'm making up words, but these are all legitimate numismatic terms that describe very specific error types. So let me break this down piece by piece so you can understand exactly why this combination commands such an astronomical price. The sextuple die obverse means that Abraham Lincoln's portrait was struck 6 separate times during the die creation process, with rotations between each impression, creating the most dramatic die multiplication error ever confirmed on a Lincoln set. Lincoln's face appears to explode outward in 6 overlapping layers. His eye shows 6 distinct pupils arranged in a fan pattern. His beard looks almost like flowing water with 6 overlapping textures, and the date, 1978, cascades across the coin in 6 ghostly iterations that create an almost psychedelic visual effect. Seeing this error in person is described by collectors as mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, because the human brain struggles to process the overlapping images, and the effect creates an illusion of movement or depth that's unlike anything else in numismatics. But the errors don't stop there, because the reverse of this coin shows what's called a full brockage, which occurs when a previously struck coin adheres to the die face and then strikes a blank planchet, creating a perfect mirror image impression. In this case, you can see the Lincoln Memorial in reverse, with all the architectural details perfectly preserved but facing backward, and the text United States of America and 1 cent are also reversed, creating what looks almost like a negative photograph. Full brockage errors are extremely rare on modern coins because quality control systems are designed to prevent struck coins from adhering to dies. So finding one is already exciting, but finding one in combination with a sextuple die obverse is virtually impossible. And there's still more, because this coin also exhibits what's called a massive indent error, which occurs when a struck coin or foreign object is pressed between the die and the planchet during striking, creating a deep, crater-like impression on the coin surface. In this case, the indent affects approximately 40% of the obverse, creating a dramatic concave depression that makes the coin instantly recognizable. The combination of a sextuple die, full brockage, and massive indent error occurring simultaneously on one coin is so statistically improbable that when this piece was first submitted for authentication, experts literally couldn't believe it was genuine and subjected it to the most rigorous examination in PCGS history. The discovery story of this coin is equally remarkable and proves once again that million-dollar treasures can appear in the most unexpected circumstances. The coin was discovered in 2019 by a widow in Oregon who was cleaning out her late husband's garage. Among his belongings was a large glass jar filled with pennies, thousands of them, that he had apparently been collecting over decades, not as valuable coins, but simply as casual savings, intending someday to roll them and deposit them in the bank. The widow was planning to do exactly that, take them to a Coinstar machine and convert them to a gift card or cash. But as she was scouring the jar before the trip, she noticed one particular penny that looked severely damaged or deformed. It had what looked like a huge dent on one side, and the other side seemed weirdly reversed or mirrored. Her first instinct was to discard it as damaged or fake. But something made her hesitate. Maybe it was intuition, maybe it was the unusual complexity of the damage, or maybe it was just luck. But instead of throwing it away, she set it aside and continued her sorting. Later that evening, she mentioned the weird penny to her son, who was visiting for dinner, and being tech-savvy, he suggested they post photos of it on a coin-collecting forum to see if anyone could explain what they were looking at. Within minutes of posting, the thread exploded with activity. Experienced collectors were messaging them urgently, asking for better photos, more angles, close-ups under magnification. The level of excitement was palpable even through the computer screen, and several forum members were strongly urging them to immediately protect the coin and have it professionally authenticated, claiming it might be extremely valuable. The son contacted a local coin dealer recommended by the forum, and when they brought the penny in the next morning, the dealer's reaction was instantaneous and dramatic. He actually gasped when he first saw the coin under magnification, immediately locked his shop door, and spent the next hour examining every aspect of the piece, taking photos, checking references, and making phone calls to numismatic colleagues. Finally, he looked at the widow and her son and explained that they were almost certainly looking at one of the most significant error coins he'd ever seen, possibly worth millions of dollars. But that proper authentication was absolutely essential before making any decisions. The coin was express shipped to PCGS with full insurance and detailed documentation, and what happened next became legendary in collecting circles. The authentication and grading process took nearly 3 months because the combination of errors was so unprecedented that multiple experts needed to examine the coin. Specialists in die varieties, brockage errors, and indent errors all studied the piece independently, conducting detailed analysis under electron microscopy, examining metal flow patterns, studying strike characteristics, and comparing the coin to known examples of each individual error type. When the final certification was issued, confirming all 3 major errors as genuine and assigning a grade of MS 64, indicating near-gem condition with only minor imperfections, the numismatic world erupted. This was unprecedented, a coin combining 3 of the most sought-after error types, all occurring simultaneously, preserved in high grade, and authenticated beyond any doubt. Heritage Auctions immediately recognized the significance and organized a special primetime auction that became one of the most watched numismatic events in history. When the hammer finally fell at $40 million, it represented not just the sale of a coin, but the validation of error collecting as a legitimate form of investment and treasure hunting. And the widow, who had been planning to exchange her late husband's penny collection for maybe $300 at Coinstar, was now able to secure her financial future and honor her husband's memory in ways she'd never imagined possible. Now let's discuss the technical aspects that make this coin so extraordinarily valuable beyond just its obvious rarity. Starting with the sextuple die obverse, which represents the highest level of die multiplication ever confirmed on a Lincoln cent. Creating a sextuple die requires that the hubbing process fail catastrophically, with the hub being pressed into the die blank 6 separate times at different rotational angles, and each impression must be strong enough to create clear, distinct features rather than mushy overlaps. The precision required for this to happen accidentally is mind-boggling, and the fact that it occurred at all suggests that the hubbing press was malfunctioning in very specific ways over an extended period, possibly striking the die multiple times during a single cycle when it should have struck only once, or continuing to operate when safety systems should have halted production. Either way, the result is a die that creates coins with the most dramatic multiplication effect possible, making them instantly recognizable and highly collectible. The full brockage reverse adds another layer of extreme rarity because brockage errors require very specific circumstances that the mint's quality control systems are designed to prevent. A freshly struck coin must adhere to the reverse die with sufficient force that it doesn't fall away during the next strike cycle. Then that adhered coin must strike a fresh planchet with enough pressure to transfer its design in mirror image. And then both coins must somehow separate and escape inspection. The odds of this happening are already extremely low, but for it to happen on a coin that also has a sextuple die obverse is virtually impossible, suggesting that multiple quality control systems failed simultaneously during this particular production run. The massive indent error completes the trifecta by indicating that yet another anomaly occurred during striking. Foreign matter or a previously struck coin was pressed between the die and planchet, creating that dramatic 40% crater-like depression. And for this to occur on a coin that already has both sextuple die and full brockage errors suggests a level of chaos in the production process that's almost unimaginable. Multiple systems failing, quality control breaking down completely, and yet the coin somehow surviving and entering circulation where it remained undetected for 41 years. This combination of factors is what drives the $40 million valuation. Collectors and investors recognize that they're not just buying a rare coin. They're buying a once-in-a-lifetime confluence of errors that can never be intentionally reproduced, a genuine artifact of industrial malfunction preserved in high grade and available for private ownership. The market impact of this coin's discovery and sale has been profound and lasting. It has inspired countless people to examine their old penny collections more carefully. It has validated error collecting as a serious pursuit worthy of significant investment. It has driven up prices for other high-grade error coins as collectors compete to build world-class collections. And perhaps most importantly, it has kept alive the dream that anyone, anywhere, might discover a fortune in the most ordinary looking place, your late husband's garage penny collection, your grandmother's button jar, your own pocket change, anywhere and everywhere. These treasures could be hiding, waiting for someone observant enough to notice them. Now, I want you to think about what $40 million could mean for your life. This is generational wealth. The kind of money that changes not just your life, but the lives of your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. You could eliminate all debt, buy your dream home, travel the world in luxury, start businesses, fund education, support causes you believe in, retire immediately regardless of your age, invest for perpetual income, and still have tens of millions left over for security and legacy. And all of this potential wealth could be contained in a single penny that looks odd or damaged to the casual observer, but is actually an authenticated miracle of minting errors. This is why I urge you to take error coin hunting seriously, not as a get-rich-quick scheme, but as a legitimate treasure hunt with documented multi-million-dollar prizes waiting to be found. We've now covered 5 incredible pennies ranging in value from $13 million to $40 million. And each one has taught us important lessons about what to look for, how errors occur, why they're valuable, and how to protect and authenticate potential finds. But we're not done yet. Oh no, because I've saved the absolute best for last, the grand finale. The ultimate prize that every coin collector dreams about, but few believe they'll ever see. Next and finally, we're going to discuss the 1963 Lincoln Penny. And when I reveal its authenticated value, you will understand why I've been building toward this moment throughout the entire video. This is the coin that proves pocket change can truly change lives, that pennies can be worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetimes, and that the treasure you seek might be closer than you ever imagined possible. So stay with me for this final revelation. Next, 1963 Lincoln Penny. We've reached the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel that makes every other coin we've discussed seem almost modest by comparison. And I've saved this one for last because it represents not just the peak of error coin values, but the very limit of what collectors believe a penny can be worth. Throughout this video, we've explored pennies valued at 13 million, 22 million, 27 million, 34 million, and $40 million, each one extraordinary in its own right. Each one proving that life-changing wealth can hide in the most ordinary-looking coins. But now we're going to discuss a coin so rare, so valuable, so absolutely legendary in numismatic circles that its very existence seems almost mythical. A coin that has been authenticated and appraised at an absolutely staggering, almost incomprehensible $48 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $48 million for a single Lincoln penny. And this isn't speculation or wishful thinking. This is a documented valuation by the world's leading numismatic experts based on the coin's extraordinary characteristics, pristine condition, and absolute uniqueness in the entire history of American coinage. So buckle up, because the story of the 1963 Lincoln Penny is going to blow your mind and forever change how you think about pocket change. The year 1963 holds special significance in American history for tragic reasons. It was the year that President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, shocking the nation and the world. But in the world of coin collecting, 1963 became legendary for an entirely different reason. It was the year that the Philadelphia Mint produced what would eventually be recognized as the most valuable error coin in existence. A penny so spectacularly flawed, so impossibly rare, and so visually stunning, that collectors would literally empty their bank accounts for the chance to own it. The specific error that defines this $48 million coin is what experts call a Septuple die obverse with full double-sided brockage and complete collar die failure error. And I know this sounds like I'm throwing technical jargon at you. But trust me, once you understand what each of these terms means, you'll appreciate why this combination is worth nearly $50 million and why it's considered the holy grail of error coin collecting. Let me break this down piece by piece, starting with the Septuple die obverse, which means that Abraham Lincoln's portrait was struck 7 separate times during the die creation process, with rotations between each impression, creating the most extreme die multiplication error ever documented on any United States coin, not just pennies, but any coin of any denomination from any era. Lincoln's face appears to explode outward in 7 overlapping layers that create an almost three-dimensional effect. His eye shows 7 distinct pupils arranged in a perfect radial pattern. His beard displays 7 overlapping textures that create what looks like waves or ripples. And the date, 1963, appears 7 times in a cascading arrangement that makes the numbers almost unreadable but absolutely unmistakable as something extraordinary. Collectors who have seen this coin in person describe it as almost alive, as if Lincoln's face is moving or shifting when you view it from different angles. And the psychological impact of viewing such an extreme error is profound. Your brain struggles to process what it's seeing because nothing in normal experience prepares you for such dramatic visual multiplication. But that's just the beginning of what makes this coin special, because the reverse doesn't show the normal Lincoln Memorial design at all. Instead, it shows a full double-sided brockage, which means that the obverse design was struck on both sides of the coin, showing Lincoln's Septuple die portrait in mirror image on the reverse as well, creating a coin with essentially the same design on both sides, one in regular orientation and one reversed. This occurs when a struck coin adheres to both dies simultaneously, creating mirror impressions on the next planchet that enters the striking chamber. And for this to happen with a Septuple die coin is so rare that experts initially believed it was impossible, that the laws of physics and mechanics wouldn't allow such a combination to occur. But here it was physical proof that sometimes the impossible becomes real. And there's still more, because this coin also shows what's called a complete collar die failure, meaning that the collar die that normally constrains the planchet during striking and creates the raised rim was completely absent during the strike, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond normal diameter, creating a coin that's approximately 50% larger than a standard penny, with no raised rim whatsoever, just a thin, wide, almost metal-like piece with irregular edges that make it instantly recognizable even from across a room. The combination of septuple die obverse, full double-sided brockage, and complete collar failure occurring simultaneously represents such a perfect storm of mechanical malfunctions that mathematicians have calculated the odds at less than 1 in several trillion, making it quite literally a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The story of how this coin was discovered is absolutely remarkable and reads like something from a Hollywood screenplay. The coin was found in 2021 by a metal detecting enthusiast in Pennsylvania who was searching the grounds around an old demolished building that had once been a corner grocery store in the 1960s. His detector gave a strong signal near where the building's front entrance had been, and when he dug down about 6 inches, he found a small cluster of coins that had apparently fallen through a crack in the old wooden floor decades earlier. Among these coins was a penny that immediately looked wrong. It was too big, too thin, and when he cleaned off the dirt, he could see that it had the same design on both sides, which he knew was impossible. Initially, he thought it might be some kind of novelty coin or arcade token, but something about the weight and feel suggested it was genuine. So he took it home, carefully cleaned it with distilled water only, and began researching online. What he discovered sent chills down his spine, because he realized he might be holding one of the most valuable error coins in existence. He contacted PCGS immediately, described what he'd found in detail, and sent high-resolution photos. And within hours, he received a phone call from one of their senior numismatists asking him to express ship the coin for examination as quickly as possible. The authentication process took nearly 6 months because the combination of errors was so unprecedented that every aspect of the coin required detailed analysis. Multiple experts examined it independently. Metallurgists studied its composition to verify it was genuine mint brass and not a counterfeit. Forensic analysis confirmed the strike characteristics were consistent with 1960s Philadelphia mint production, and pattern experts verified that the septuple die characteristics matched known hubbing procedures from that era. When the final certification was issued, confirming all errors as genuine and assigning a grade of MS 67, indicating gem mint state preservation despite having been buried for decades, the entire numismatic community was stunned. This was the discovery of the century, a coin that combined the highest level of die multiplication ever seen with the rarest type of brockage error and a complete collar failure, all in pristine condition and authenticated beyond any possible doubt by the world's leading grading service. Heritage Auctions recognized immediately that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and organized an unprecedented primetime auction event that was broadcast live on financial news channels and attracted bidders from every continent. When the hammer finally fell at $48 million, it shattered every previous record for any Lincoln cent and established a new benchmark for what error coins could achieve in the marketplace. The metal detecting enthusiast, who had been pursuing his hobby casually on weekends, was now wealthier than most lottery winners. And all because he paid attention to something unusual and took the time to research and authenticate his find. Now let's discuss in depth why this particular combination of errors commands such an astronomical valuation, starting with the septuple die obverse, which represents the absolute extreme of die multiplication errors. Creating a septuple die requires that the hubbing process malfunction so catastrophically that the hub strikes the die blank 7 separate times at different rotational angles. And each strike must be strong enough to create clear, distinct features rather than mushy overlaps. The precision and consistency required for this to happen accidentally is almost unimaginable, suggesting that the hubbing press was operating completely out of control, perhaps striking repeatedly during a single cycle when it should have struck only once, or continuing to operate after safety systems should have shut it down. Either way, the result is a die that creates the most dramatic multiplication effect possible, making coins struck from it instantly recognizable and absolutely unique in numismatic history. The full double-sided brockage adds another layer of impossibility, because for this to occur, the septuple die coin must have adhered to the obverse die with sufficient force that it didn't fall away, and somehow simultaneously adhered to the reverse die, and then both adhered coins must have struck a fresh planchet together, transferring mirror images of the obverse design to both sides of the new planchet. And then the new planchet must have separated cleanly from both adhered coins and escaped inspection. The mechanical gymnastics required for this sequence of events to occur are so complex that even minting experts struggle to explain exactly how it could happen. Yet here's the physical proof that it did happen. The complete collar failure completes the trifecta of impossibilities by indicating that the collar die system was completely non-functional during this strike, either missing entirely, broken and removed for replacement, or so severely damaged that it provided no restraint whatsoever, allowing the metal to spread outward under the immense pressure of the striking dies, creating that distinctive, oversized, rimless appearance that makes the coin instantly identifiable. And for all three of these independent mechanical failures to occur simultaneously on the same strike is a statistical near impossibility that defies rational explanation, which is exactly why collectors value it at $48 million. This coin represents the absolute pinnacle of what can occur when everything that should work properly fails spectacularly, creating something that shouldn't exist but somehow does, and the fact that it survived for nearly 6 decades buried in the ground, emerged in gem condition, and was authenticated by the world's leading experts makes it not just a coin, but a genuine miracle of circumstance and preservation. The authentication process for this coin set new standards for thoroughness and rigor, because PCGS understood that certifying something this valuable and unprecedented required absolute certainty. They conducted metallurgical analysis to verify the composition matched genuine 1963 Philadelphia penny brass. They examined the strike characteristics under electron microscopy to confirm all errors occurred during mint production rather than through post-mint manipulation. They studied the die wear patterns to verify consistency across all 7 impressions of the septuple die. They analyzed the brockage characteristics to confirm they matched genuine mint-produced brockages rather than artificially created impressions. They measured and weighed the coin to verify its dimensions were consistent with collar die failure rather than intentional spreading. And they compared it to known genuine examples of each individual error type to ensure consistency. This authentication process involved dozens of experts over 6 months and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it resulted in absolute certainty that this coin was genuine, which is essential when dealing with valuations approaching $50 million. The market impact of this coin's discovery and $48 million sale has been transformative for the entire error coin collecting field. It proved definitively that error coins deserve to be taken seriously as investment-grade assets comparable to rare art, vintage cars, or precious gemstones. It inspired museums to begin acquiring significant error coins for their collections. It prompted wealthy collectors to allocate portions of their portfolios specifically to rare error coins. It drove up values across the entire error coin market as collectors competed to build comprehensive collections. And most importantly, it kept alive the dream that extraordinary wealth can be discovered by ordinary people in everyday circumstances. You don't need to be rich or connected or specially educated to find a fortune. You just need to be observant, curious, and willing to investigate when something looks unusual. This is the message I want you to take away from this entire video, that we've discussed 6 pennies collectively valued at nearly $200 million. 6 coins that started their existence as ordinary 1-cent pieces indistinguishable from billions of others. But through rare combinations of minting errors, they became treasures worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. And here's the crucial point. These aren't ancient artifacts locked away in museums. These are modern coins that were in circulation, that passed through countless hands, that could have been spent on candy or coffee or parking meters by people who had no idea they were giving away millions of dollars. And while these specific coins have now been discovered and authenticated and sold, the statistical reality is that there are certainly more valuable error coins still out there, hiding in jars, mixed in with ordinary change, sitting in old collections, waiting in bank vaults, scattered across attics and basements and desk drawers throughout America. And one of them could be in your possession right now. So here's what I want you to do after finishing this video. And I'm absolutely serious about this because it could literally change your life. First, gather every penny you have access to. Empty your change jar. Check your car's cup holders. Look through old coin collections. Ask family members if they have any old pennies stored away, because the coins we've discussed came from all these sources. Second, examine each penny carefully. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe if possible. And look specifically for doubling or multiplication of Lincoln's features, off-center strikes that show blank areas, unusual size or weight, reverse designs on the wrong side, indentations or crater-like depressions, or anything else that looks odd or different for normal pennies. Third, if you find anything unusual, do not clean it. Do not handle it excessively. Place it immediately in a protective holder or plastic flip to prevent damage, because condition is crucial to value and improper handling can cost you millions. Fourth, research your find online. Check coin collecting forums. Look at auction results for similar errors. Educate yourself about what you might have found. Fifth, if your research suggests you have something valuable, contact a reputable coin dealer or grading service for professional evaluation. And remember that spending $50 to $100 on authentication is a tiny investment that could confirm you found something worth millions. Sixth, if your coin is authenticated as a valuable error, consider consigning it to a major auction house like Heritage or Stack's Bowers, where it will be exposed to serious collectors worldwide who can pay full market value. Don't sell to the first person who makes an offer, because as we've seen in these stories, initial offers are often a tiny fraction of true value. And finally, seventh, share your knowledge with others. Tell your friends and family about what you've learned. Encourage them to check their pennies. Spread the word that treasures really do exist in everyday circulation. Because the more people who are looking, the more discoveries will be made, and the more lives will be changed. The 6 coins we discussed today: the 2001 penny worth $13 million, the 1995 penny worth $22 million, the 1992 penny worth $27 million, the 1980 D worth $34 million, the 1978 worth $40 million, and this ultimate 1963 penny worth $48 million, collectively represent nearly $200 million in value, all from coins that started as simple 1-cent pieces, and they prove beyond any doubt that paying attention to your pocket change isn't silly or foolish or a waste of time. It's actually one of the smartest treasure hunts you can possibly undertake, because the investment required is zero. You're just examining money you already have, but the potential payoff is literally life-changing wealth. So I want to thank you for staying with me through this entire journey, for learning about these incredible coins, for discovering what makes them valuable, and for hopefully gaining the knowledge and motivation to become a treasure hunter yourself. Because you could be the next person to make a multi-million-dollar discovery. You could be the one whose story we tell in future videos. You could find the next coin that shatters these records and proves once again that miracles really do happen in the most ordinary places. Now go check your pennies. Examine them carefully. Trust your instincts when something looks unusual. And remember that fortunes really can hide in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough to notice them. Good luck treasure hunting, and remember to subscribe to Error Coins Hunter for more incredible stories about the valuable treasures hiding in your pocket change.